This.
Backhand shot, he scores!
And this.
Oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a town square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Thursday edition of Game Night, and there has not been a drop of rain in our area. So that Phillies rain-delayed postponement was probably the biggest load of horse manure we could have possibly gotten. But Phillies are back in action tomorrow. No Phillies tonight, as I said yesterday on Game Night. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know. We'll find out. Sixers are back in action tonight. You hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We are going to talk some Sixers this hour. Also get into the NFL. The NFL draft is April 27th. That means it's only a couple weeks away from today. And if you've been listening to 97.3 ESPN, Mike Gill in the Sports Bash is going to have an Eagles draft party. You have another opportunity to be an Eagles qualifier for the Eagles draft party coming up in about 55 minutes from now. Well, the sounder will go off and you will have an opportunity to win a trip to an Eagles road game this upcoming season. But before we get to that, we will have Andy McNamara. He is back to talk some NFL offseason, NFL draft, and more with him in just a bit here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And as always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I've taken the position, and I stand by it, that I think tonight you need to see the starters on the court. This is the final home game of the season. And for all the fans who show up for tonight's game, I think it would only be appropriate for the Sixers to go out there and have the starters. They don't have to play the whole game, but, just a little hat tip, a thank you to the fans. Go out there, let Embiid and Harden, everybody be out there. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll see what actually does happen. 7:30 tonight, Tom McGinnis on the call here on 97.3 ESPN FM. But I do think that with the Sixers, their most important game down the stretch was Tuesday night. I still hold to the belief that their win the other night was very important because it was an example of them embracing their identity. And their identity has to be moving forward to be the team that fights claws and just does not give up. And, maybe for once, being the underdog might be the key for them. Now, I can't promise you that. I'm just telling you what my perspective is. My perspective is that I'm looking at a Sixers team that is not going to be the favorite in any second or third round matchup, barring some massive upset. Frankly, I think all the upsets are going to be in the Western Conference. You look at the Western Conference right now in the NBA, that's where the chaos is going to reign supreme, in my opinion. I'm looking at the Western Conference because Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, those are your top three seeds. None of them have championship pedigree. Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, those franchises have never won a championship. And there's almost nobody on any of those teams that's ever been to an NBA Finals. Meanwhile, Phoenix has Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They've all been in the NBA Finals in recent years. The Clippers have Kawhi Leonard. You know who that guy is, right? The Golden State Warriors, enough said. Lakers got LeBron. So the 4 through 7 teams right now in the Western Conference, they are all teams that you expect at least one of them to pull off an upset in the first round of these playoffs. And I'm telling you right now, if it is Warriors and Kings, if the Warriors are not the betting favorite, you better smash that bell for that one, because that's going to be a Warriors victory, in my opinion. Eastern Conference is very different. For the Sixers, if you are going to get to the NBA Finals, you're going to have to fight and claw your way to the top. Now, as Mike Gill said on the Sports Bash earlier, maybe the incentive is for you to beat the Heat. That way you permanently knock them out of the 6th seed. That way you do get the Nets in the first round. And the Nets are, for the Sixers, probably the easiest matchup of all the teams out there. Because, as I was telling Mike Gill, I have always been a guy, because of my years covering mixed martial arts and being around the fight game, styles make fights. I have never seen an upset in boxing or MMA that wasn't the result of a specific style contrast or a specific type of mismatch. You know, for all the people who loved Ronda Rousey, I was telling people for years, Ronda's not evolving. She's not growing as a fighter. So when Holly Holm came along, I knew for a fact that Holly was in a position to take her down, because Holly's style and her well-rounded game made her a huge problem for Ronda. And that's a big reason why she beat her. Look at UFC 287 this Saturday. I lose track of my numbers sometimes with the UFC. But you know, Israel Adesanya lost his belt to Alex Pereira because of the fact that Pereira is a style mismatch for him. You know, people have always assumed that the way to beat Adesanya is to, wrestle him, take him down, and rough him up a little bit. Well, it's easier said than done for a guy like Israel Adesanya, who has evolved and grown and gotten better as a fighter. Pereira brings something to the table that Adesanya has trouble with, which is he is the same caliber of striker, if not a better striker than Adesanya is. So it's a difficult style matchup. Again, styles make upsets. And for your Philadelphia 76ers, I think the Heat are a bad matchup for you, because what the Heat have that is neutralized against Boston and Milwaukee is Jimmy Butler. There is nobody on the Sixers well equipped to deal with Jimmy Butler on a play-to-play basis. And it's him and those shooters he is surrounded by. And in a 7-game series, you basically need those shooters to show up for at least 3 of your 4 wins if you're Miami. You need Strus, you need Hero, you need those guys around Jimmy Butler to show up for just a few of those games. And if you ask those guys to take 6 shots, if each of those guys is hitting 2 of their shots, well, guess what? That's 6 threes right there. That's 18 points. That could be an 18-point swing in the game. Whereas the Nets, they don't have the firepower. They don't have a player that is that much of a problem for the Sixers in a 7-game series. The other thing is Miami has Bam Adebayo. The Nets don't. I think Bam Adebayo, listen, let's be realistic. Joel Embiid should be the league MVP. Nobody can guard him consistently to neutralize him. But I'm a big believer that athletic players defensively can give Joel Embiid at least some pause. That's why everyone keeps saying, hey, if Robert Williams guarded Embiid instead of Grant Williams, does Embiid score 35 instead of 50, right? Brook Lopez isn't the greatest player in the world, but there's a reason why he is considered a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, because of how well-rounded of a defensive player he is, how impactful he is in the post. Now, the problem is for guys like Lopez and Williams, when Embiid goes to the perimeter, they got no shot. But then you have teams like Cleveland and Miami with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley over in Cleveland, Bam Adebayo, Miami. Those are at least guys that can maybe chase and beat around a little better than what Milwaukee and Boston have to offer. So that's why I feel like if you can knock Miami out tonight, it's going to make your life easier if you're the 76ers, which I think in turn maybe indirectly answers Jeff in Ocean City's question at 609-403-0973. He says that he asked, would you rather face Brooklyn instead of Miami? And I say I say any team wants to face Brooklyn in the first round. Brooklyn is the weakest of the Eastern Conference teams because every Eastern Conference team, not the Brooklyn Nets, has a dude that can just go off in a game. Listen, you may not think very highly of DeMar DeRozan or Pascal Siakam. You may look at the Atlanta Hawks and see a team that's 41-39. You may look at a team like the Knicks and shrug your shoulders at Jalen Brunson. But all those teams have a dude who can go off. DeMar DeRozan, if he is not handled properly, can go for 30, 40 points on any night. Pascal Siakam is a walking double-double machine. Trae Young can go for 40 on any night he gets hot. And it's a scary thing. And I think Jalen Brunson has been grossly underrated as a basketball talent. I think that he is the kind of player that if he wants to, he can take over a game if necessary. And part of it is because of the fact that it's not that he's a pure scorer, but I feel like his basketball IQ is way better than people realize. And he is the type of player that when he gets on a roll and he gets in that rhythm, he is so dangerous. And there have been games this year where, I mean, it just happened a couple of weeks ago against Cleveland when he scored 48. This is a guy that scored 39 earlier this year. I mean, he has scored 39, 40 points multiple times this year because when he gets in that rhythm, he is dangerous. Brooklyn is the easiest matchup for any team in the Eastern Conference because they are that team that doesn't have a guy. Spencer Dinwiddie is a nice player, but he is not that dude who can just go off. When I mean dude, I mean all-star level, borderline superstar player. Like if Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jason Tatum are superstars, right? Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. Then Jalen Brunson, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam, they're like the very next tier right below that of not being a superstar, but being an all-star upper level type of guy. And I would put Jalen Brunson in that category as well. Spencer Dinwiddie's not that guy. And if Brooklyn's in a series with the Sixers, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a 4 or 5 game series. Sixers wash their hands and move on. We'll get to more of your text a little bit later this hour. 609-403-0973 is the text board. I see your text about about the weather. I'll get to that a little bit later in the hour. But coming up next, the NFL draft is just a couple of weeks away. And we'll talk with Andy McNamara, my buddy. You hear him throughout the football season. We talk football on Fridays. We'll talk football on a Thursday today because the NFL draft is a couple of weeks away. A deep look into how the NFL offseason will impact the NFL draft next here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
I'm in an old building. Either you get the heat in the winter or the AC in the summer. I'm in bed early-ish, midnight. Everyone's up. No one goes, it's so hot in here. Open the windows, try to get a little cross breeze growing. Can't because the way the windows work, it's like, I can't explain it.
You ain't getting no sleep.
It's almost like a danger.
You got no sleep last night.
Oh, I got no sleep.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN. Brought to you by
the Gallery Bar Book and Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on a parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When you want experience, go for the best. Pick up the phone and call Dennisville Fence.
Hey, South Jersey contractors, is your current supplier failing on your railing? Dennisville Fence can supply or install whatever type of railing you need. With the largest selection in South Jersey, we are your go-to source for cable rail, glass rail, aluminum, and composite. Plus, we have a mile of white vinyl T-railing in stock to help you stay on time and on budget. Have trouble getting up the steps? Our instant rail and ADA handrail will have you covered. Don't leave your customer in the dark. Our full line of low-voltage lighting will knock your job out of the park. With materials delivered right to your home or job site, we make it easy to get you the products you need when you need them. So start planning your project today. Visit DennisvilleFence.com or our newest location at 229 Shore Road in Summers Point. Again, that's 229 Shore Road in Summers Point.
Pick up the phone and call Dennisville Fence. 1-800-499-FENCE. Visit DennisvilleFence.com.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist. Ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
SpringFest savings is here at Lowe's. Don't miss out on the best deals of the season, like 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro garden soil when you buy 3. Plus, save on other items like select laundry pairs. Get an additional $100 off select laundry pairs when you spend $1,296 or more. Head to your local Lowe's or visit Lowe's.com to shop SpringFest savings today. Valid for 4/12. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
Dr. Rick here. With another telltale sign you're turning into your parents, getting particular about your drive-through order.
Don't pull away yet. I like to check the bag because one time they forgot to give me extra ketchup.
People are waiting.
I'm only seeing 4 nuggets. Wait, nope, there's 5.
Progressive can't help you from becoming your parents, but we can help you compare rates on home insurance with Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
It's April, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
I had a nighttime routine for my frequent heartburn. I would drink milk. I would sleep upright with more pillows. But that painful burning stayed. So I made Prilosec OTC part of my morning routine. With just 1 pill each morning, Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid production, blocking heartburn day and night. Now I have a new nighttime routine. I call it sleeping.
1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. With Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take it. Local bank is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get back to your guys' thoughts and comments on the text board in just a bit. 609-403-0973 and your DMs in 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. Yeah, but right now, we got to run it back all football season. We talk with Andy McNamara on Football Fridays with the NFL draft just a couple weeks away from today, it's only appropriate that we talk to Andy McNamara on a Thursday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Andy, my friend, welcome back in. How are you doing?
Josh, it might be a good Friday tomorrow, but it's a great Thursday right now being on with you, brother. Doing good. How are you?
I love how we have simpatico. We didn't coordinate this, but we're both wearing wrestling-related shirts.
Of course.
Andy's got, for those who, obviously people on the radio can't see us, but Andy's got the AEW All Elite shirt on, and I got the Rock Just Bring It going.
Classic
so,
shirt.
yeah,
Love
you're
it.
more modern. I'm more throwback. So
I got my oldest wrestling shirt. I have an NWO one that I got in 2002 when I was in Toronto for WrestleMania 18 for Hogan versus Rock. So I bought that there. Then I had a 97 Bret the Hitman Hart Foundation shirt, which I just had to get rid of recently because it literally fell apart. Like it fell apart in my hand. So I had to bury it in the backyard.
Well, full disclosure, the shirt I'm wearing now, I actually got during the pandemic because it was one of those nights when it was one of the nights when, remember when WWE was doing that thing where they're trying to like sell the store and it was like 75-80% off everything in the store if you go right now, you know.
You're like, well, I have to.
Well, I was like, well, you know what? If it's 80% off, let's see what's actually there, right?
Right.
And this is one of the shirts I saw. And I was like, well, there you go.
I wonder if they had sold at the time or will sell in the future, like a pencil thin mustache creator that Vince McMahon now has. Have you people seen this? Like, did nobody else think it was a gag? I'm like, is he playing with terrible hair dye?
He looked like a villain from like a 70s movie.
Even later, I coined him on Twitter an evil Clark Gable. Look it up, people. Look up Clark Gable and then Vince McMahon. He was like either that or he was the guy going to like tie someone to a railroad track from like one of the silent films. Like it looked terrible. So the style, there's three phases to this, Josh. There's the thin mustache itself, horrible look. Then it was uneven as well over his weird lip.
Yep.
Then what I haven't heard anyone talk about, when you had a head-on shot, his sideburns were wildly uneven.
Yes.
Go back look. Once I'm like, and then a terrible dye job. Like, this guy's literally got $10 billion. Who's advising his style? It's ridiculous.
Not us, obviously.
No.
Or anybody who's got any intelligence. Speaking of intelligence, I want to get your perspective on the NFL draft a couple of weeks away. Give me the off-season move so far in the NFL. Any team, you can pick any team you want. What is the off-season move that you think will have the biggest impact on Thursday, April 27th?
I think it's got to be the Carolina Panthers getting the first overall pick. That's got to be the move, because it really then opened up the present and the future for the Chicago Bears. Look, with Aaron Rodgers presumably at some point, I think, going to leave that division and end up with the New York Jets. The Bears, like that NFC North hasn't been wide open in how long, Josh? Like since Brett Favre, right? Like pretty much. So now that's wide open for the Bears. For the Lions are ascending. Vikings are kind of in a weird spot, but always kind of tricky. So I think that move was the trade with Chicago and Carolina, because it sets the Bears up to actually build around Justin Fields, but also for the Panthers, it lets them go get their guy. And who that guy is going to be will be interesting. I think, in my mind, without a shadow of a doubt, should be CJ Stroud, end conversation right there. But we'll see.
You know, it's interesting because you mentioned CJ Stroud. I got to be honest with you. There's 3 quarterbacks in this draft I like, and the rest of them, I have a ton of questions.
Yeah.
I love CJ Stroud. I love a guy that is able to just be consistent. Like, you can't take that away from him. And, you know, he's got a little Justin Herbert in him. He's got a little bit of that, you know, hey, if you need me to, I can throw it through a brick wall, but I don't have to do that every time. Obviously, you can't not like Bryce Young's personality, his attitude, his character. I don't think he's a Tua. I don't think he has the injury history. But I do think that if you put any quarterback behind a bad offensive line, they can be destroyed, i.e. David Carr with the Houston Texans, right?
Yeah.
And the third guy I like is Will Levis. I don't think people realize that this guy was shoehorned to be a Wildcat quarterback. He purposely went to Kentucky, of all places, to turn himself into an NFL prospect. And I understand that he had a down year last year, but half of the team around him was injured. And I think if he gets with the right guy, he has the physical tools to be like Josh Allen light to me. So those are the three guys I like. You name me anyone else in this draft, I will rip them from here to kingdom come.
Josh, I literally had, because I'm a combine junkie. I got my notes for those online watching. I got my notes. Every combine I make a ton of notes. Then I go back and track it with their game film and all that, and then piece together my draft kind of mold. So Will Levis, you know what I have here? Josh Allen type of raw ability. Needs to land in the right spot with great coaching to develop him like Allen did in Buffalo. Remember, in 2018, if Josh Allen went to the Jets, the Browns, the Cardinals, he'd be Mitch Trubisky right now. He was so raw. He was so raw. He was the biggest boomer bust. He could have very easily gone to nothing, but he didn't. He landed in the right spot. Will Levis, let's look at the size. 6'4", 229. Let's go. Can make the arm like a cannon. Now, the touch placement can be a little inconsistent, but like you said, he's molded and he's growing again, like Josh Allen did. Each step of the way, he's improving. So if Will Levis, and I hope he does, because the guy looks like a QB, right? Like those big, tough guys. So I hope he lands in the right spot, but if he doesn't, it could go south too. So
it's funny you mentioned Levis, because let me ask you this. Should the Colts draft Will Levis, let him sit for a year behind Gardner Minshew, or should they take that first round pick, send it to Baltimore, and go get Lamar Jackson because Shane Steichen worked with Jalen Hurts the last 2 years?
Interesting. You have to think something with this Lamar Jackson side is going to come, but the problem is twofold. It's one, are the Ravens accepting the reality that he's not going to play with them anymore? And two, Lamar Jackson and his want for guaranteed money. And the most ridiculous thing I've heard in a while was Lamar Jackson's camp. Well, I guess it's him as his camp, but coming out and saying, no, I don't want it all guaranteed money. I just want the guaranteed money more than Deshaun Watson. Well, that's all guaranteed money, pal. Go get it. Go get Deshaun Watson. Talk about Deshaun Watson. Go get his agent. Deshaun Watson hosed the Browns and got all that money. Go get Deshaun Watson's agent. Come on. So the problem becomes whoever wants to trade with him, are they willing to give that much money? And when it's saying no right now, is Lamar Jackson going to sit out and miss out on $32 million guaranteed dollars this year to prove a point?
No.
That's never been done.
No. I think part of the, let me hear, because, you're a Browns fan. For those who don't know, I've always been a Browns fan. So you understand the Deshaun Watson side of this very well. The Ravens are in your conference. I think the problem in Baltimore is the fact that I still contend they didn't build around Lamar. They asked Lamar to save them. And the problem is, as a Cleveland Browns fan, when you ask the quarterback to save you all the time, he's going to get injured. And I just don't understand how an organization like Baltimore that has won not one, but 2 Super Bowls in the last 23 years, how that organization didn't get that fundamental football concept.
Yeah, I think Baltimore always fancies themselves as being a very smart organization. And I know personally a couple of Browns staff writers that worked with the team, that travel with the team, saying they're some of the most unpleasant, some of the most arrogant people to deal with when you're going for game day. They think they have an air about them that they're so smart. Well, guess what, Baltimore? Not so smart now, are you? Now you got your other Pro Bowl quarterback, Tyler Huntley. Yeah, enjoy that. I don't know. You're right. Because it seems like really it's okay. How did you miss this? How you waited too long? And really, the beauty of the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson right now is Deshaun hasn't done anything for the Browns, but it ruined Baltimore's relationship. If that deal doesn't happen, Lamar Jackson is signed right now to Baltimore with whatever standard, relatively big contract, guaranteed.
Talk with Andy McNamara. Of course, you can follow him over in the Twitter sphere to check out all of his podcasts and the million things he does at AndyMC81. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right, let's get to the Eagles, because this is Eagles country, right?
Yes.
So I think a lot of people like myself are curious about the defense. Mm-hmm. Look, we know Jalen Hurts to get his money. We all know that. We're not worried about it. It'll get done at some point. The curious thing is, new D coordinator, re-overhaul of the defense. 2 new safeties are coming in, 2 new starting linebackers next year. A lot of change on the defensive side of the ball. Andy McNamara, your thoughts on the Eagles' defense?
I think it's important that Fletcher Cox came back. Whatever you want to consider him at this point in his career, I think that's important because you do still get that some sort of continuity, leadership. He can produce the buy-in for the new D coordinator. You needed something like that because remember, Josh, before the Super Bowl, we were like, how many of these guys are gone? Like, how many of these players are leaving? So there is some overhaul, but you do have some stayovers. And I think when you're looking at this draft class, they can add some nice pieces. Like there are some good defense and good to great defensive players. I went through my little notes here. Now, depending on who lands where, we look at some, like each year, these defensive players coming out of the draft just become more freakish, more like the next evolution of what humanity will be. Someone like a Will Anderson, who's just an absolute monster. Drew Sanders, 6'4", 3/8", 235 out of Arkansas. Monster. Nolan Smith from the D-line. Like there's a lot of different areas depending where you want to go, depending where you're picking and who falls. And also situational. They're in a spot too, the Eagles defense, where you can afford potentially to take a guy who maybe isn't a complete player, but you can develop if you like one specific trait. You like, he's a go-getter, pass rusher, can't stop if you feel you can coach him up, that's where. So I still think they're in a good spot pre-draft because they do have the possibility to add in a good overall defensive group, especially on the front seven.
So my position has consistently been that I think the Eagles need to keep the 10th pick and not trade it because if you anticipate to be a top tier team for the next decade with Jalen Hurts, you may not see a top 10 pick again for 10 years. Right. I think that's why I want to stay there. Now, who you pick there, that obviously could be debated. I tend to go defense in this draft because I think that, like you said, you got to keep adding pieces to the defense. Now, the problem is depending on which mock draft you go by, some people, they really like Lucas Van Ness from Iowa.
I like Van Ness. Yep.
Some people, they're projecting that, just to use an example, what if a guy like Tyree Wilson falls all the way down? Or what if the Eagles go offensive line, he gets past Chicago, like Peter Skronsky, right? A lot of people are throwing out a lot of names. I personally love Miles Murphy from Clemson. Stick with the D-line edge rusher group. Who do you like for Philadelphia at 10?
Yeah, and this is where having those 2 picks are interesting because and I don't think they'll do this, but theoretically, you could always bundle too. Like if they usually you're not doing that unless it's for a quarterback, so I doubt it. But you could, right? If they fall in love with, a Nolan Smith or like I said, a Will Anderson or something like that. Those are the type. Drew Sanders and Will Anderson. I think those are immediate. Now, where do they go in the draft? I think all are going to be likely first-round picks. If you look at any of those guys as far as being explosive, as far as being someone who can get after the quarterback, physical, and are ascending. And Nolan Smith was an absolute combine star. Take what you will out of the broad jump, but athletically, he's an absolute beast. A little small and lean maybe for the D line, but maybe you can mix them around a little bit. But those are 3 guys I think I would love to see join that Eagles defensive front 7 and mix and match however you want. Because again, the Eagles are in a spot. You don't have to be perfect. You can come in as long as you're growing and coachable. You can get a real stud on defense, and then maybe you swing back at 30 and you get, you get an offensive lineman or something like that, right? You go and you do it that way. But also I would caution Eagles fans, although offensive linemen, they're not sexy. They're not exciting. You're not going to go buy their jersey. If you get one, you said it earlier, you don't appreciate an offensive line until you don't have one. So to me, you can't get enough strength on that O-line.
Although I will say the Eagles have had a lot of success getting guys outside the first round to build the offensive line.
That is true.
Isaac Seumalo was not a first-round pick. Landon Dickerson was a second-round pick. Jordan Mailata was a late-rounds pick. Jason Kelsey was, I think, was a 6th-round pick. So Cam Jurgens, the future center of this team, he was a second-round pick, so you don't have to get in the first round. I genuinely believe that Will Anderson is not getting past the Cardinals. I think Gannon looks at him like his next Hassan Reddick. And I don't think Jalen Carter, for all of whatever you can say about him, he's not falling past Chicago, in my opinion. So I don't think either one of those guys are there. The reason I bring up a guy like Tyree Wilson is because I feel pretty safe saying 3 quarterbacks are going in the top 10. And it might even be 4, honestly, depending on, if somebody trades up for like Anthony Richardson and gets really interested in him developing, I personally don't like Nolan Smith. I think he was a byproduct of being in Georgia's system. And I think it helped being on a good team that allowed him to have less. He didn't have to deal with, a lot of attention at Georgia because he was playing with so much talent. Whereas I like a guy like Tyree Wilson way better. I like Miles Murphy way better because those guys were game planned for. I like Lucas Van Ness because you knew why he was in the game. He was coming to hunt the quarterback, and he still got to the quarterback. I like guys who we know what you can do, and we still can't stop you guys. Those are the guys that I like.
Yeah. You know who else I like that, and I'm not sure where he'll be mocked or go to, but Lonnie Phelps. I like Lonnie Phelps. 7 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss. And again, take what you will out of the bench press. I think for linebackers and linemen, that pure push strength is relevant. Led all of the position group in the bench press in the draft. Again, a guy, is he perfect? No. Does he have a lot of talent and has produced? Yes. So those are the type of guys I think you can really look at. And I'll say also, Josh, to me, and I know Jalen Hurts is mobile and you don't want to necessarily invest a whole bunch at the running back position. You can't count. I was puzzled by that. Like, when healthy, and that is a big if and when, and it's rare, he's explosive. But that guy's had a ton of wear and tear. So are we looking at more of a role for Kenneth Gainwell? Eagles have hesitated to do that. I would have liked to have them sign somebody like a Kareem Hunt who is available. You can get Kareem Hunt for $3 million. I guarantee it. I guarantee you get Kareem Hunt for $3 million.
I mean, maybe that's what the Eagles are waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for Hunt's market to drop by the time the summer comes around and then sign him on a discount.
But then you have Penny, Gainwell, Scott.
That's fine.
Sermon.
So?
That's a lot. And your quarterback runs.
People forget when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they had like Garrett Blount and Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement, and they would have had Darren Sproles as well if he didn't get injured.
What about Zeke Elliott? Stick it to the Cowboys, huh?
We're out. We're out on Zeke.
Come on, Zeke, eat the soup. Let's go.
Zeke needs to go to Cincinnati and go home.
Where I wonder with those the situation is though. Is that with this running back, like we talk Kareem Hunt and Ezekiel Elliott, that's the 2017 and 2018 rushing champions. Poof. That wasn't that long ago. Mm-hmm. Gone. Forgotten. Out of here.
How quickly it changes.
Right. And now you're looking at, a pretty strong running back draft class where if you're a team, you're like, well, do I want to get a lot of tread or do I want to get one of those cheap new guys that I can mold?
Really quick, a couple more before I let you go. You know, another guy who I really like, I don't know if the Eagles will get him or not per se, but I think if he goes to the right team, this guy could be the next dude.
Okay.
Mazi Smith from Michigan.
Okay.
I think that he's got some, maturity issues, right? But he's got that Chris Jones freak ability, right? And I think that if he went to a team like the Eagles with those veterans, right? Or any team that's got like Atlanta's got Calais Campbell right down there right now. Like a guy like that to put his arm around you and say, hey, young man, let me show you how to be a pro, not just to be a freak athlete. Yeah. I think a Mazi Smith could turn into a Chris Jones type player.
That's the type of player where if you have that stable culture, it can work. If you have chaos, it doesn't work. So I wouldn't hate that for the Eagles at all. I'll say this as well. People dump on this wide receiver class, Josh, okay? And it's like, okay, maybe you don't have your Olave or your Wilson or your true number one. I think this is littered with WR2s that can grow. And I'm thinking for the Eagles, later in the draft, You can get 4th, 5th round guys. Let me throw a couple names at you real quick. Guy I love, and I hope the Browns take him, but if they don't, I wouldn't mind the Eagles taking him. Bryce Ford Wheaton out of West Virginia. I know when you look at the college numbers, it's like, okay, a little inconsistent. I think it was a byproduct of an team. I can't argue with these numbers, Josh. I can teach. This is what I said about DK Metcalf. You can't run routes. Well, I can teach routes. I can't teach 6'4", 221, 41-inch vertical, and a guy who ran a 4.38 second 40. How about getting him in the 4th or 5th round for the Eagles? How about that to replace Quez Watkins? Nothing against old Quez. I would take Bryce Ford Wheaton. I think you need, if you got Greg Ward, I think if you're the Eagles, an extra later round development guy with a lot of raw talent that you could put in the slot or outside in a role piece to start. I think that'd be a real nice fit on that offense.
I don't know if they'll get him either, but I'll give you a name as well. And if he ends up with the Browns, you should get excited.
Ooh, okay.
Rashee Rice from SMU.
Okay. Tell me about him.
So he played in one of those, like, spread them out. The quarterback throws the ball. Mordecai was the quarterback down at SMU kind of offenses. Remember, that's where Sonny Dykes was before he got to TCU. He was over at SMU. This is one of those, you mentioned, like, you can't teach size and ability. He was one of the best contested catch guys in all of college football last year.
Ooh, okay.
And I think that when you're a guy who can get contested balls, and listen, like I said, they know you're throwing the ball, right? They know they're coming to this guy. I think that he's a guy that if he gets to the right team, he could develop into something nice. I don't know if he's like a all-pro caliber guy, but I think, as you mentioned, the WR2 category.
Yeah.
Like, he's the... I'm trying to think of the best way to compare him. It's almost like he's a thicker Marvin Jones.
Oh, okay. So fast, but a little more meat on him.
Yeah, he's got more meat on him because, like, he also had, I think, like 20 broken tackles last year.
Okay.
For a wide receiver, so, he's the kind of guy that can kind of, be that second or third guy. Like, how the, I gotta go to break soon, but like the Bengals they're successful with 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, they have that number 1 chase, but like, there's a reason why everybody's fantasy team has T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd too, because
absolutely.
they're going to get the ball. So I think that for a guy like T. Higgins, he may never be a good 1 receiver, but he's an excellent 2 receiver. And I think Rashee Rice could develop into an excellent 2 receiver. And I could totally see a team like Buffalo, for example, drafting him and putting him across from Stephon Diggs and just saying, good luck, everybody.
That, if you're Buffalo, that would be scary. You putting in a talent like that. And that's what I mean. You go up and down. You got a Matt Landers, 6'4", 200, 4.37 second, right? All these guys have a little something off about them, potentially. But to me, Josh, if you're big, if you're fast, and if you can catch the ball, figure out the route running later. If it's, be able to catch the ball and run really fast. And if you're a giant, that's cool too.
By the way, Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. That's Anquan Bolden light right there.
I like Cedric Tillman. I also like Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee too. Kind of the lost guy.
Those Tennessee receivers are pretty good. Let's put it that way.
I think Hyatt might be able to sneak a bit because Tillman got kind of the rub, right? So he might be able to drop. That's a take off the defense type of speed there.
He's Andy McNamara at AndyMC81 on Twitter. Check out all of his podcasts and coverage. I know you got the Browns pod, the Sick pod, all that stuff going on. You're doing a million things. I appreciate you jumping on today, and we'll talk more as we get closer to the 2023 NFL draft.
Absolutely, Josh. And you know what? Hey, guys, real quick, check out SimWin Sports, Celebrity Owners. It's a group I'm doing a little bit of work with, some simulation in the metaverse. Really cool stuff. SimWin Sports has Magic Johnson, Jerry Rice involved with it. Really cool stuff. Talk to you next time, buddy.
And he's always involved with something. I can always guarantee that. Take care, my friend.
See ya.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night 973 ESPN FM, 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bag. I see messages from James on the DMs, Jeff in Ocean City. Get to you guys and more coming up as we wrap up the Power Hour known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Count it, it's good. Oh, yeah. Joel Embiid, he's back, baby.
It's Sixers Heat tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Everyone loves TV Dad.
On the next TV Dad, presented by Progressive, TV Dad meets the prom date. So you're here to take my daughter out, huh?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm only going to say this once. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds.
Oh, I thought you were going to say take care of my little girl or something.
She's a kickboxer. She could take care of herself.
Listen to your TV Dad. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
I thought learning a language would be too much work, but Babbel makes learning fun. J'aime Babbel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes. And soon, you turn and realize, hey, I'm starting to speak another language. How'd that happen?
Babbel isn't robots talking. You learn words and phrases from real native speakers. I was ready for real-life conversations in just a few weeks. So easy.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Want a great rate? Check out our new First Wave Money Market account. The more you deposit, the more interest you earn. And even better, there are no term commitments. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details, including how to get a 4.25% APY.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Certain rules and restrictions apply. Member FDIC.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
This world has its limits, but in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya, you've got a world of possibilities. You can leave it all behind in serene interiors, or you can go after it with available e-Force all-wheel drive. Go your way in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya. Nissan Ariya with e-Force not yet available for purchase. Expected availability early 2023. Subject to change. e-Force all-wheel drive is an optional feature. e-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Today on Hey Culligan's Smart Home, Smarter Water Softener. Here's Kevin.
Hey Culligan, can a smart water softener lift those heavy salt bags for me?
Kevin, it can.
Wait, it can?
Yep, the smart high-efficiency water softener from Culligan can alert your dealer when the salt needs to be replaced, and they'll do it for you, so your water stays soft and you stay away from lifting the bags.
I mean, I could lift them if I wanted.
No judgment here, Kevin. We're happy to do it, and we're already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Now, more Game Night. App.
All right, wrapping up the Power Hour here. Don't forget Sixers basketball tonight, 7:30 p.m. Tom McGinnis on the call on 973 ESPN FM. And in just a few minutes from now, your final opportunity today to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. You'll have more opportunities tomorrow morning on KJM here on 973 ESPN, and then tomorrow with Mike Hill on the Sports Special 2 p.m. Let's hear some of your thoughts and comments over on the DMs. James chimes in on the DMs. Okay, you can contact the show either through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle or on the text board 609-403-0973. But James chimes in, says, hi, Josh. Your thoughts on wide receiver Josh Downs of UNC? He's a great slot wide receiver. My perspective on Downs is I think that he is going to be a nice player for somebody. I have a couple questions about him. My initial question with a guy like Josh Downs is he played in an offense that was very fortunate that it had some good quarterbacks in recent years. So I do think that even though he is an incredibly explosive athlete, he was very productive in college in part because he had a lot of great people throwing to him. And I think that because he's a slot receiver, I don't really see him as a great outside guy. He has had some focus issues at times, dropping the ball. So I do think that he's probably the kind of guy you might want to get like in the middle round on a team that doesn't need him to play tomorrow. Like, if you need a guy who's a plug and play, I don't think he's a plug and play guy, but I do think he's a guy that maybe in a year or two he can develop into that consistent asset for an offense. I don't know if that means a team like the Eagles should draft him, but I would say a team like the Giants shouldn't draft him. A team like the Giants needs an immediate plug and play guy, whereas maybe a team like the Browns or the Cowboys, they don't need him immediately to go out there and play and contribute, as a primary number 3 receiver. If he's your number 4 receiver for a year or two, and then he becomes the 3 receiver or even maybe the 2 receiver, I don't really know what he would be like as an outside receiver in the NFL. Because like I said, a lot of his production, as James pointing out, he's a great slot receiver. So I don't know how productive he would be as an outside receiver in the NFL. But guess what? There's a lot of good, very productive slot receivers in the NFL have great careers. Jeff in Ocean City says, should the weather people apologize to the Philly fans for canceling the game when there was no rain today? Yeah, man, I can't blame the weatherman for that. I personally have to blame the Phillies and Major League Baseball. Look, there's no reason why you couldn't have gotten that game in today. If you started the game an hour earlier or a half hour earlier, you could have gotten it in. You could have played the game today. I blame the Phillies and Major League Baseball for dropping the ball there. Weatherman, this time I can't blame them. All right, you know what that sounder means. Caller number 7 at 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. I'm looking for caller number 7. You have an opportunity to be a qualifier for the Pick Your Trip contest. Yes, the winner will get to pick their road trip to an Eagles road game at the Giants, at the Jets, at Washington this year. And of course, if you are a qualifier, you must be present to win at Maynard's in Margate, April 27th, the Thursday of the NFL Draft. Caller number 7, 609-573-3776. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Sixers Heat tonight at 7:30. Have a great night, everybody.
From the Augusta National Golf